Hello everybody, it's Brian for GadgetUnit.com, and in this video I'll be taking a look at the TruGlide Apex stylus for tablets. You can pick this up for $49.99 from LYNKtec.com, and I would like to thank them for sending this over to me for review purposes. So I first saw this at this past CES, and what had my attention was that the tip is very small. It's just 2.3 millimeters in size, and compared to a traditional stylus like this, it just has sort of a silicone rubber tip at the end. The TruGlide Apex is much thinner, and this should allow for more accurate handwriting and drawing on your tablet. Those are just a few examples of what you can do. So I've always wanted something like this personally, and it just took a while for them to make something like this. And one of the important things to know about this is that it does require power. Inside is a quadruple A battery, which provides more sensitivity for the various devices that you'll be using, and I'll have 3 different demonstrations of that shortly. So here's a quick look at the packaging. It's pretty nice, and front and center would be the stylus itself through this clear window. And on this left portion here, it just shows you about the stylus itself. Now, because this requires power, you can turn the unit on and off by rotating the top of the pen, and there is one quadruple A battery already installed. And I actually didn't know that quadruple A batteries existed. I just thought that triple A's were the smallest, but apparently you can go up to quadruple A. There is a blue LED to indicate that it is on and off. And of course you do have your fine point tip for realistic pen to pad writing. On the back of the packaging, it just gives you a little bit of information on what comes inside. So of course you get the stylus pen itself with the integrated battery. You get an extra replaceable nib should that one be damaged after using it for quite a while. You also get an extra quadruple A battery and a small quick start guide. The quick start guide isn't really necessary in my opinion, and here we are taking a closer look at the TruGlide Apex itself. There is a little bit of branding on the top, and of course this is the switch, so you just rotate this. The blue light will indicate that it is on, of course, and you do have some ridges down towards the bottom to add some grip. And if we take another closer look at the tip, here it is. For my first demonstration, I'll go ahead and use a smartphone. So here's my iPhone 5. I'll go ahead and unlock it real quick. Now, without the pen actually being turned on, it's not going to work on my iPhone 5S whatsoever. I'm pushing fairly hard on the display, but nothing is working. So let's go ahead and turn it on, and you'll see that it will work. So now I can actually interact with the device with the stylus pen, and it works for the most part pretty well. You do have to put additional force onto your display than you might usually do with, let's just say, your finger, for instance. But it does work. You can see that I'm not putting too much pressure on the display and it's not working. Now if I push a little bit harder, it starts working just fine. So for the iPhone 5S in particular, it doesn't really work too well. Now if we switch over to the Galaxy S5, it's actually a bit of a different story, because if I just turn the stylus off, and I do have my Galaxy S5 in the default power saving mode, you can see that it works just fine. I'm barely applying any pressure to the display, yet it's still working just fine. I can interact with it like you normally would with very little added pressure on your display. Of course, if you turn it on, the pen itself will have additional sensitivity, so you barely have to put any pressure onto your display at all. I'm just using the natural weight of the end of the stylus to interact with the phone, and it works just fine. So you can clearly see that the sensitivity on both of these displays does vary, so that's something to keep in mind. Next up, I have an iPad 2. It's a little bit of an older model, and there is an anti-glare screen protector. I forgot to mention that with the iPhone 5S, but there is an anti-glare screen protector on that. They do say that this should work just fine with screen protectors, so clearly with the stylus off, it won't work with your device at all. Now when we turn it on, we have activity here. So it does work similar to what it did on the iPhone 5S. So if we do a little bit of handwriting, this is, oops, my palm just sort of got in the way there. Let's try this again. Let's just clear that out. This is a writing test. With this stylus. And you do have to apply added pressure as opposed to what you would normally put with just your finger, or I would even go as far as to say that something like this is a little bit easier to type with, because you don't have to put barely any pressure onto your display. It just works really naturally, as if this was your finger. This, you do have to apply added pressure to the iPad 2's display. This might vary depending on your iPad model, so this is a little bit older. Maybe the iPad Air is a little better with this, similar to the way it is on the Galaxy S5. This display is just incredibly sensitive, and it works really well with this particular stylus. Or maybe this works a little bit better with Android tablets. I imagine Samsung's Galaxy Tab devices, this particular stylus pen works a lot better. But when it comes to Apple devices, it will work, and it will give you more accuracy when you're drawing and writing things down on your display. But one thing to just keep in mind is that you have to push down a little bit harder on your display for it to actually register it appropriately. But for the most part, I think that people will be a bit satisfied with this should they find themselves using this all the time. So that is it with my video review of the TruGlide Apex. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback about this or anything else, feel free to leave those down below in the comments area. But that's it with the video, so thanks a lot for watching, and I'll talk to you all very soon.